Narcissists. 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 They seem to be everywhere. Online, on TV, in books, in our lives. Did you open this video because you're trying to understand a relationship with a narcissist, or maybe you're trying to heal from a relationship with one? Well, I'd like you to hear that the most important thing that you can do now is not to pay attention to that narcissist, but to turn the focus of attention onto you. Yes, it's helpful to understand narcissistic personality disorder, to get that so many of the behaviors that we're confronted with are common to that personality disorder. However, it's ironic that when it comes to understanding what it's like to be in relationship with a narcissist, that most of the attention is about, ta-da, the narcissist. Geez, can we give them any more attention? So what needs to happen now instead, if you want something to change, is that you've got to turn that focus of attention onto you, to see how you have been affected by either growing up with narcissists or being in relationship with them in your adult life. But it's especially important if those patterns, if that experience of being with narcissists goes back to your family of origin, to your childhood. And please don't think that if you are now going to pay attention to yourself, that that's going to turn you into a self-absorbed narcissist. No, self-attention, self-care is on a spectrum. At one end is selfish self-absorption, the narcissistic calling card. At the other end is selflessness. That means that the person doesn't take care of themselves at all. Neither of those extreme positions is healthy. In the balanced center point is self-interest, knowing that it is our job to take care of ourselves physically, mentally, financially, spiritually, socially, emotionally, etc. Otherwise, who do we think is supposed to do that? A good analogy is the FAA's instruction prior to every flight. Put your own mask on first. If you're not breathing well, you're not going to be able to help anybody else. You're not even going to be able to help yourself. If you don't create a loving relationship with you first, then you're going to continue to be attracted to people, narcissists or others, who can't be there for you. Being there for yourself has to be your default mode. Otherwise, you're going to succumb to what I think of as an American burger in Paris syndrome. What's that, you ask? Well, let's say that you're a gourmet, that you love good food, good wines, and you decide to give yourself the ultimate treat, a couple of weeks vacation in the food mecca, the food capital of the planet, Paris, France. And so you do. And you are having the time of your life, trying out the cheese shops, the wine stores, the pastry shops, the delis. Oh my God, the delis are unlike delis anywhere in the world. Every item is a gastronomic delight. And after about a week or so of this, it starts to get a little old. Yeah, even that. And one day, one afternoon, you're out walking in the R&D Mall where you're staying, and there on the corner is an American burger joint. Oh my God, it's home! It's home! You can smell the burger, the fries, and you know you just have to indulge. You're salivating already for those items. And so, of course, you go in, order that burger, those fries. Is that meal good for you? Probably not. Is it up to par with what you can get in France? Unlikely. But it's so familiar. It's home. You just have to indulge, despite knowing how you're going to feel afterwards. I think I've made my point. And of course, indulging in a burger and fries doesn't have the protracted consequence that getting into another relationship with a narcissist does. But if you wonder, can I ever be in a healthy relationship then? The answer is a loud, emphatic yes. Hi, I'm Bea Armstrong, and for more than 25 years, I've worked with people who are dealing with narcissists, trying to be in a relationship with them, trying to heal from those relationships, until finally it just drove them so crazy that they sought help. Prior to my professional life in this field, I spent about 5 to 7 years healing from the narcissistic parent that I grew up with. But I'll talk more about that a little bit later. First, let's focus on you. Let's see if some of the patterns that I'm about to delineate fit you. If you've grown up with or spent some of your adult life with narcissists, or both, here are 7 of the main ways that you were affected, that you learned to be externally focused on others, and how that now affects your choices in relationship. It's why that burger in Paris is so attractive to you, so much so that you can't not go there. Number 1, you learned how to have your focus of attention totally on others. If you grew up with a narcissistic parent, you were taught to pay attention almost exclusively to that parent's needs. And so you are likely to be externally focused as an adult. You might scan others to get a read on them. What do they need from you? What do they want? You might have even thought you were paying attention, or they were paying attention to your opinion, to what you were saying. But maybe they were just impatiently waiting for you to finish, so that the spotlight can go back on them. And what was really going on was more like that old quote, "Well, enough about me. Now, what do you think about me?" 2, you didn't experience attunement. What's that? Well, it's having someone really tune into you and want to know who you are, how you are, not as an echo or reflection of them, not so that they can come back and say, yeah, I know exactly what you mean. 2 years ago, I experienced the very same thing. No, that's taking that focus of attention back on themselves. Attunement is about feeling seen, being tuned into. We know how good it feels when someone gets us or groks us, as Robert Heinlein, the author, used to say. And it isn't just about getting attention, but authentic attention, really knowing us, wanting to know us. We can feel the difference. 3, as a result of the first 2, you can have a very rudimentary picture of who you are. When I ask clients questions like these, they can have a hard time answering. What's important to you? What would you like to have happen here? If you could be anything, what would it be? If you could travel anywhere, where would you go? In response, I often get confused or blank stares, certainly long pauses. Of course, they understand the language. I'm speaking English after all. But those ideas regarding themselves aren't part of their paradigms. They haven't learned to know themselves, to tune into them. 4, you probably weren't soothed or comforted in childhood, and therefore don't know how to give that comfort or to yourself or to others. When someone is hurting, we can't always immediately fix that. But if we're mentally healthy, we can be there for them. Again, we tune in and soothe. And that doesn't mean distracting or minimizing or trying to make someone feel immediately better by saying something like, oh, I'm sure it's going to work out fine in the long run. When we try and distract someone from their pain, what we're saying to them is we don't want to be with them in that space. We need to change it. We need to fix it. Understanding of the big picture can come later. We can focus on solutions later. First, we need to offer a sincere, "I am so sorry. Poor baby, how awful. Go ahead, cry. I'm here." 5, it felt like no matter what you did, you were never enough. Never good enough, smart enough, productive enough, accomplished enough, attractive enough. Well, no surprise as to what that leaves people with. Constantly trying, seeming to constantly fail, and then constantly feeling bad about yourself, even ashamed. Never measuring up to some arbitrary standard and not knowing what that is or having a clue about how to heal it. 6, lack of awareness of your own needs, physical, mental, emotional, or if you are aware of them, they are low on your priority list. You might tell yourself that you'll take care of yourself after you help someone else, but by then you're usually too exhausted to do so, or you're out of time. 7, you learn to be primarily concerned about what others will think of you and your choices, your actions. You were taught that looking good to others, having the right image, was essential to being loved or accepted. So then you typically stuff or repress what you are thinking, feeling, choosing. You're ashamed it's going to be the wrong choice. Better to go with what's PC, someone else's idea of what's PC. I grew up with a narcissistic father. He could have been the poster child. And I eventually learned how his narcissistic personality disorder got started, and I could have some compassion for him. But by then, the damage to me was in place. I knew most of those 7 items I just delineated firsthand, and I could even add a couple of others, like not trusting other people, like sabotaging my own joy. The good news is that in my late 30s, I fell apart. Yeah, that is the good news. And it felt exactly like falling apart psychologically, coming unraveled, no longer able to hold it together, maintain the image. And I say it was a good thing because, and yes, it only felt like a good thing much later, but because I had to ask for help. And by the way, that's another thing that people who spend time with narcissists have a hard time doing, asking for help. I found a good therapist, and after working on those issues for a number of years, I found me. And I found that I enjoyed the process so much that I wanted to help others find themselves. So fast forward, here we are. If this speaks to you, trust that. That's a first step, a big one, trusting yourself and what feels right for you. Learn to trust yourself, to take care of yourself, to give what's going to be helpful to you and feel good to you in the moment. And then ask for help. Find someone you can work with and begin your healing journey. If you think you'd like to work with me, I'd be honored. My phone number is below, 408-486-9202. Or you can check out my website, barmstrong.com. I only do online work now, and I've done that for almost 3 years and find that it works very well. It allows me to reach a wider range of people. But the reality is, whoever you decide to do your work with, the person you are going to meet isn't that therapist necessarily. The person you're really going to meet is you. Take care.